Hi guys, today I'm gonna take you through how to create your own AI in your application. It's very simple. That's the use of APIs to create your own AI application. Okay, now instead of building your own model, it's a bit complex. You need knowledge in programming and then also artificial intelligence. That's you have to be mathematically inclined a bit, but it's fairly easy to build your own AI applications through something called API, application programming interface. I wouldn't be going deep. We are using Python, but I wouldn't be going to the basics of Python, trying to explain some basic concepts in Python. So I am assuming you already know how to program in Python, but just that there's a way to just show you a quick way to create your own AI application for free. You don't pay for anything. We are using Google AI Studio, which is for free. You could also use ChatGPT's API, but the Gemini API on Google AI Studio is actually free and an easy way to start learning. Okay, so let me start quickly. This my studio. If this your first time, you could search Google Studio, AI Studio Google, and you see it has popped up aistudio.google.com. You click on it and you create an account. I already have an account with this email, so there's no need to create another account. But if this is your first time, you actually need to create an account. The next thing is to get your API key because I have already done it before. I already have my API key here, so let me delete it. But if this is your first time, you click on create API key and then select the default account. It's normally Gemini API. So you just select it and then you create an existing product. It's as simple as that. So now the next question is why are we creating an API key? But first of all, let's copy the API key and paste it in our this thing so that we can just include it. So we have our API key here as a comment. I don't want to go back into Google AI Studio, so I am pasting my API key here. Now the question is why do we need an API key? It's just like a building. Let's say you are living in apartment, a lot of people within. You have gone to rent your apartment. You have your own room. To access this room, which is yours, you actually need a key. So, same way, software companies, when they develop something to access their application, you need a key because else anyone at all, anywhere can access it and abuse it. So, you need a key. So, it's only that key that will grant you access to their AI for you to be able to include it into your application. Now, as the saying goes, it's better to teach someone to fish rather than giving the person a fish. So today I'm going to teach you how to fish rather than just doing the video and then showing it to you. It entails a lot. So I'm going to teach you how to fish. So all you need is the documentation. So normally the documentation should be somewhere around the interface. In this case, for Google AI Studio, it's here API documentation. Just click on it. It leads you there. Now, if this is your first time, I would advise you to go to Quick Start. Every documentation, just play your hands around it. You are going to see the Quick Start. Now, the Quick Start normally often helps you know the things you have to do before even you start using it. So as the norm, to use it, you need to install the Gemini API library. That's if you are using Python. This is for Python, assuming you are using Node.js, you do an npm install. Python is a pip install, REST framework, the curl command, and Go language is go get GitHub, blah, blah, blah. Now we are using Python, so we are concentrating on Python. That's if you are not proficient in Python, Node.js, or Go, then you need to go in for the REST framework. Now, but of course, we are conversant with Python, we are using Python. So if this is your first time, make sure you pip install Python. We already have our API key. So the next one is to just copy this code and paste it and see what it works. I am going to explain what each and everything does. So first of all, after copying and pasting, we see this. Now, let me just do a quick, so this, to use any library in Python, you first have to import it. So from Google, import GenAI, okay, which is actually a class. Okay, so the GenAI is a class. Let's break the code down into details. So GenAI is actually a class. So let's say, let me even do it this way. Let's explain the code into detail. So let's say print type of, sorry, I said type of is type because this Python. JavaScript is type of, but Python is type. So the type is what? A class type. As you can see down here, the type of this thing is a class. I just wanted to explain something to you. So, as the saying goes, a class could have so many properties or attributes. If you have no knowledge about attributes, I would advise you go and read it. So under this class, we have several attributes: vertex AI, credentials, project, location, debug, HTTP. Our main concentration is on the API key. So API key, which is an attribute, we need to set this to your API key. So if you don't understand classes, I think it's best to go to W3 schools. Okay, then go to Python, revise on classes and objects. Okay, so it says, let me see, class is a blueprint, blah, 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 function. Um, so properties, okay, some programming language says attributes. So in Python, it basically says properties. Okay, so um, we have properties and methods. Okay, so actually, this is these are the properties of the class. That's API key and all those others. Those are the properties of the class. Okay, so just copy and paste. Okay, just copy it and paste it, and then you can have access to the AI model. Like how I explained, it's just like someone's house. You can't just enter, you need a key to enter the house. So this actually grants you access with the API key. For the other ones, don't worry about them. Maybe as you read documentations and then you go deeper, you may understand for the other ones. But for now, let's just concentrate on the API key because this is your first time of making an API call. Okay, to Gemini. Okay, now after that, now let me explain the concept. Okay, we are making an API call, which is like a request and response. Okay, so anytime you make, let's say there's a client side, there's a server. Okay, so you make a request and then you get a response. So let's say there's a request. this response. Okay, so now our request is made. Okay, there's our request. Let me draw the arrow line wall so that you see it. And then there's our response. So anytime you make a request, you get back a response. So in our code, whatever response we are getting, we need to attach it to the value response. Now, if you check this wall, there's a function. If this is your first time of learning functions, I would advise you to go back. Now, this response, okay, this is a function, okay, inside this class, okay. If you are not too familiar, don't worry about the concept, just revise on classes functions. But if if you are not too if you don't really understand what I'm trying to say, just revise on functions and then classes in Python. Now, but on an overall, I just want you to understand that you can interact with Gemini. So this is actually a function which returns something. Okay, so your function will return whatever you got back from the server as a response. So that return value should be assigned to a variable. If you didn't really get what I said, I would advise you to revise functions. So this is a function. Generate content is a function inside the client class. This class, okay, the client class. Now, generating like generate content returns a value. So that value is what we got back from the server. It actually returns that value, and that value should be associated with a variable. You learned in functions that whenever a function is returning a value, you can associate that value to a variable. So it is actually returning a value, generate content response. That is the value it is returning. Now, these are the parameters. Okay. Now, let's talk about the two parameters inside our function here. Okay. Now, the first one is the model, which is the kind of model. Okay, so you can go to your API documentations. There are several models. Okay, you can choose flash, flashlight, whatever. You can choose the various model. In this case, our model here is Gemini 2.0 Flash, which is here Gemini 2.0 Flash. We can change it to any model we want. Maybe Gemini 2.0 um Light, we can change it. Okay. We can choose any model we want. Okay. Then the second one is the content, what we are the prompt we are feeding into the AI. So just imagine you go to ChatGPT, then you put in a prompt and then it gives you a response. So your prompt is actually the content. Okay. So in this case, we are just saying hi. That's our prompt. Okay. So we just say hi. Okay, so after this function runs, this function will actually issue a request to the AI server, get a response, then return the value of what it got from the server. After it's Because it is returning the value, we can assign it to a variable. Okay, now that value is actually a class. Okay, now why are we doing response.text? We are doing response.text because whatever it's getting is actually a class. So now let's do print type type of response. Okay, now let's send this request. Okay, so let's run our code. You are going to see that we got a response. Hi there, how can I help you? Now this hi there, how can I help you, is actually a response you got. Okay, now why are we saying dot text? Because this is a class. Okay, but the class contains something we want to get, and to have access to that thing, we need to use dot. Okay, now let me do a simple illustration. Why didn't we just print response but response.text? As I told you earlier, this client is a class, this is a function within the class. Okay, now let me double highlight it. Let's do a quick recap about class. Let's do some class. Okay, let me even comment out this one, some class. Okay, then let's say dot some variable. Okay, is equal to, let's say, ABCD. Okay, now then it could also have some function. Let's say print hello world or something. Okay, now this is our class, which is similar to the client. Okay, now to access our variable within this class, okay, we need to do print. Okay, then let's say some class. Okay, dot what, some variable, dot some variable. Okay, now if we run this close, if we run this, we are going to see it imprinted ABCD. Okay, because we are accessing this variable within the class. The same way when we got our response was in a class. So to have the text value, so now our response came into the class, but there's a variable within the class called text, which actually contains what response we actually need from the AI. All the other values are irrelevant. So to get that variable, we need to use dot class. Okay. To get that variable, we need to use the dot word. Okay, so in this case, dot text would what basically give us the variable we want in the response class. Okay, now if you don't really understand coding and you are basically confused, this last words are for you. Note that we need to import the library we are using, we need an API key, and then we need to select our model here, and then our prompt needs to go here. Okay, that's if you are not too good in programming. These are the basic things you need to know. Okay, you can still do a copy and pasting, but I will advise you to have an in-depth knowledge in programming to be able to twist things around. So if you don't have any knowledge in programming, just know that your API key should always go into where the API key is, the type of the model you want to interact with, and the prompt. Now, also note that these things can change depending on what you want to do. Okay, now let's go back to the documentation. Okay, so let's go to text generation. Okay, now text generation example. Okay, now I am coming out of the programming aspect. Okay, so you can continue reading your documentation. Example, if you want to generate a text from text and image, what we did was generating a text from only a text. That's you enter a text. In this case, we entered hi, and then we got a response, hi there, how are you? Okay, now assuming you want to generate it from an image and then a text, it means you have to open your image inside your script, which is this code, and then you also have to add it as part of the content. before adding your text. If you want to generate it in a stream, example, a stream means it will generate it in bit. You actually need to do client.model.generate content stream. So instead of just generate content, you need to do a dot generate content stream. Okay, in this case, let's say define accounting. Define accounting. Okay, now what you are going to realize that it's going to be generating it in bits. So for chunking response, print text. Instead of printing just text, for chunking response, print chunk.text. Okay, so instead of this, we rather do it this way. Okay, or if you are confused, just copy and paste the whole thing there, it will do it for you. Okay, so we actually need to print it in bits because the stream gets our response in bits. So we can run the same thing. You are going to see that it is still generating in bits before it's finished. But if it's dot content, the same thing, it will generate everything at once. Pam, you, sorry. So dot content means we just print it just once. We don't print it in chunks. So you are gonna realize it just printed everything at once. We got our response at once. But if we are generating in stream, you can copy and paste it directly. Okay. But I but though I am editing it, you can just copy and paste it directly. So dot generate content stream, you are gonna realize it is gonna be generating it in bits. Okay, so there are a whole lot. I can't teach you everything. That if you want to build a conversational AI, this is a like a sample of a code you can look on and then probably edit it. Um there are some configurations too you can do, but for now I want to make it more basic. Okay, so temperature, you can read about it, is how well your model would be more predictable. So ChatGPT often gives you different answers. So that's actually a high temperature. Low temperature would fairly be giving you consistent answers. The token is the amount of words. Okay, so you can limit it to just some few tokens if you want to. So just adding system instructions just helps your model to behave better. You can play around it, but irrespective, always note you need an API key to be able to do anything. Then also your prompt goes to the content, the model you can choose. Okay, so if you don't really understand programming, you can still do it, but note this where your prompt goes, your model, your API key. Okay, so you can just copy and paste and then edit. This is your system instructions. It's basically the same thing, your prompt, your model, your API key, your your model, your API key. It's basically the same thing. So if you don't really understand functions and blah blah blah, you can still do it. But I would advise you as a programmer, you still understand those things. So I think I'll end the video here. Thank you.